Cruise ship cruise of Reddit. What's it really like to work and live on a cruise ship? We had a saying, every night is a Friday night and every morning is a Monday morning. Every day is Groundhog's Day. You will never be alone. Relationships happen really fast. Your body clock changes. Grudges can fester. Everyone higher rank than you is an idiot. If you have a solo room, then you might as well write a blank booty check. The crew was basically divided in half. There was a huge group of Southeast Asians. Quite a few were even family members. They mostly stuck to themselves and did a lot of the manual labor style work. The second group was 18-30-year-olds from US, Canada, Australia, France, and England. The younger kids humped like rabbits and drank like fish. Most people would blow every paycheck going nuts at each port and drinking on the cruise ship. The older Southeast Asians very rarely drank and very rarely did much at port other than pick up some personal supplies. The rooms were pretty small and the vast majority of them were shared. The meals for the cruise was pretty bomb, and you could also eat drink anywhere you wanted on the ship as long as you were off your shift and not in your work clothes. It seemed as if the general consensus was it being a great experience for a short period of time, but it is not something you'd most likely enjoy for more than a few seasons unless that type of lifestyle appeals to you. You have to take a somewhat intense physical before getting on board. This includes a drug test. Random drug tests also happen while on board. Moral of the story: if you want a cruise ship job, stop smoking weed 3 weeks ago. Also, random drug tests always seem to randomly select the entire entertainment department. Long working hours. Very small shared cabin with walls thinner than paper so you can hear everything your neighbors are doing. Crew food is bloody awful unless you like living on boiled rice. Crew bar is very cheap, but also full of creepy guys hitting on everyone and insanely gorgeous girls sneering at everyone. But none of that matters. In 5 years on cruise ships I literally traveled the world. I went to Europe, Canada, North, South, and Central America including Alaska and Hawaii, Asia, China, Japan, and India, Africa. I basically visited every continent except Antarctica, and went to over 75 countries. I took a sled dog ride in Alaska, whitewater rafting along a river through the jungles of Costa Rica, visited Alcatraz, had an authentic curry in Mumbai, spent a day on a luxury yacht sailing around the Caribbean, snorkeling at the Great Barrier Reef, visited the Great Pyramids in Egypt, been to the lost city of Petra, spent days in Barcelona, Athens, Rome, Kiev, and so much more. None of the BS you have to put up with on board matters compared to that. Everyone sleeps with everyone. The food for crew is nearly inedible. You will never find a free washer unless you camp out in the laundry room for a few hours. There are usually about 5 to 15 washers dryers, and anywhere from 1,000 to 2,500 crew members. The rooms are tiny, and your shower curtain will always be trying to get to know you biblically. US citizens aren't paid that well, but some countries, where the conversion rate is really good, make some serious bank. South Africa, especially, we do get to get off in port and go have a good time. Many ports have crew discounts for food and drink. However, most contracts last for around 6 to 8 months, so after a while, the same old ports every week start to really wear on you. There is a crew-only bar, and beers are $1.50. Some ships have a crew-only hot tub. I worked on a major cruise line out of a port in Florida. Crew bar has cheap drinks, but you're technically never supposed to be drunk. You can find most crew there usually always smoking cigarettes, drinking beers and getting a little too drunk. Not much else to do when the ship is at sea. Most crew members have families back home and a lot have girlfriends on board as well. That is just a part of ship life. Crew members are super hard working and work weeks are 70 hours a week without a single day off for 6-8 months at a time. Most crew members rely on tips for their wages. My position was salaried for $58 a day. I was an officer on board working in the guest services office. Came out to roughly $1,400 a month after taxes. No one else is taxed besides Americans on board. The best way to describe no days off is waking up to your alarm and every single day feels like a Monday morning, for those that actually have normal work weeks. My position shared a bedroom with bunk beds and really small bathrooms. You could crap, shave your legs, and brush your teeth all at the same time. depending upon your position on board determined if you had guest area privileges. I was allowed in guest areas, but after spending all day with the guests that's the last thing I wanted to do. You're always on duty and your supervisors have 24-hour access to you at all times by just ringing your phone and waking you up in your cabin. Sleep was very limited, so every off hour was spent trying to catch up. Wi-Fi was $5 a day for 24-hour access to limited social media apps or $10 for 100 minutes unrestricted. I spent way too much money on the crappy Wi-Fi. Overall, the people you live and work with is what makes your experience on board. Some days are worse than others, but you somehow manage to get through it. Most of my friends work for cruises. Since we work in technical theater production, it's an easy hire. Cruises are either a great way to save money or an awful one. Your lodging and food is paid for, and you're getting paid, so that's great. But cruises are boring. Sure, cheap booze and free travel is great for the first little while, but after a while, it becomes like Squidward in that episode where he finds his perfect down. So routine, so boring. Wi-Fi is usually anywhere from $5 a day to $10 hour and there is no cell service. So, when you're not working, you're trying your best to find anything to do. So a lot of the time you'll start spending money on anything new, and then you're not saving or enjoying yourself, so there's little point. However, many people still enjoy the life of the routine and the travel, and figure ways around spending money. Just know, it's harder than you expect to be one of those people, but if you can be, it's a great opportunity. One of my friends plays in the cruise band. He said he practices like 1-2 hours a day and plays a show. Like 4 hours of real work. Then he just drinks at the crew bar and supposedly partakes in orgies or threesomes. He fricks the dancers. They are usually pretty hot from what I've seen. Also he said there's no such thing as a dry country. You can find somewhere to drink in port, even in strict Islamic countries. Worked on a cruise ship for 3 years. Some key points. 1. If you're American, you are a minority. My ship had over 2,100 crew members, and only about 40 of us were American. You are seen as a rare, magical unicorn. 2. Fighting for an open washer or dryer in the laundry room is heck on earth, and whichever dong put too much detergent in their machine every week, causing the laundry room to overflow. You are a soap terrorist and my soggy sneakers will never forgive you. 3. Food is provided, but the two most common ethnicities on my ship were the Philippines and India, so the crew cafeteria was usually full of food I wasn't used to, like pigtail stew and fish heads. I ate a lot of salad and mashed potatoes on my contracts. 4. Think of a time you did something embarrassing while drunk at a bar. Now imagine having to see every single person who saw you do that embarrassing drunk thing every day for months and months. That's what ship life is like. It was awesome, though. You travel for free, drink for cheap, and save a lot of money since you aren't really paying for anything unless you want to. I'd suggest it to anyone who has no strings attached and is willing to work hard for 6-8 months at a time. Worked as a dive instructor on a yacht cruise for a bit. Food depended on the chef. 1 week I lived off rice and the next I'd eat like a queen. Living conditions were heck. My cabin was a box with a mattress smaller than a standard single. The ceiling was so low I couldn't sit up on the mattress. No fan, no air conditioning, and just 20 centimeters on one side for me to store my stuff on. The crew were amazing though. Less than 10 per boat, so you always got washing machine access. Never too much of a queue for the bathroom. Great vibe. Pay was low, and the hours were long, but that's something that comes with this job. The reason I quit was the relationship between the crew and the guests. We were expected to be ghosts, and couldn't sit anywhere guests were, and would have to move if they wanted to come where we were sitting. I'd see them for their dives and not be acknowledged for the rest of the time except if they wanted something. It's degrading to be honest, and a pain in the ass. Some days I'd be up at work for 3.45 and have to wait until 11 at night for the guests to leave the decks before I could fill the tanks. We got crammed in a tiny cabin with 3 other employees, but you have varying hours. So there's people coming and going when you're somewhat asleep, but you worked hard, so you're tired and you might actually sleep. The engine noise tends to be helpful in that regard. Good opportunity to save some money. Great summer work for students. Gotta deal with the public well enough to keep smiling. Don't spend too much time talking about the guests. because we all have to get up and do it again the next day. Overall, it was great, lots of good people and amazing scenery. Things learned. You deal with 3 types of people: newlyweds, overfeds, and soon to be deads. Not me personally, but a couple former co-workers did. One girl was a shopping guide, pretty prestigious cruise job. She'd give presentations about portside shopping and recommend what shops to go to. This involved making partnerships with the local shops. Those recommendations are obviously very valuable to the show owners, so in exchange for them, she got to purchase designer clothing and jewelry at or below cost. Another girl had a somewhat less prestigious job. Can't remember exactly what. Either worked in the onboard shops or was part of the entertainment departments. What other people have said is pretty accurate according to her. Cramped quarters, cheap booze, debauchery but never with the passengers, long working hours, and a lot of boredom in between. One thing she did tell me is the cruise lines, the well-known ones anyway, are very anal about cleanliness. If there's even the hint of a norovirus outbreak, it's all hands on deck and the entire ship is scrubbed down with disinfectant. But while the ship is clean, certain lines will sometimes cut corners when it comes to maintenance of the mechanical systems. Think the infamous poop cruise from a few years back. Totally depends on which country you come from. My wife and I met working on ships. She's Indonesian, worked 10-month contracts without a day off, 12-14 hours a day, and made about $600 a month. Lived in a shared room, ate food that was literally made from the scraps of what passengers didn't eat, never had time to get off ship in port. I'm American, worked 4-month contracts, had a solo room, usually worked about 6-10 hours a day, ate with the passengers in the Lido, and made around $3,000 a month. Different roles, but the jobs all have nationalities. On our ships, bartenders were all Filipino except the crew and officers. Bartenders were Indonesian. The best way I could describe it is this: work hard, play hard, work harder, play harder, die a little, and do that cycle for almost a year. If you don't find good friends and things to keep you occupied and happy, that isn't sleeping and drinking, you'll hate life in about 2 months. I enjoyed my time there, don't wanna go back, but I had a ton of fun and loved the experience I got from it. I recently finished my 6-month contract as a photographer on one of the smaller and oldest NCL ships. I thought it'd be a great gig straight out of college. They sent me to Italy, France, Greece, Croatia and Montenegro, which is a great experience being from the US. But you're literally so tired from working so much that you don't want to even get off the ship when you have free time. I would have rather slept on my 30-minute dinner break than eaten the horrible food they provided. My first week I wanted to jump overboard, but the people you get to work with keep you going and you make lifelong friends that are sharing your struggle. The cabins are awful, especially if you're rooming with people you don't like. They're big enough to hold half of the things you'll need for 6 months, and the only thing keeping you from listening to your roommates getting it on next to you is a broken curtain. I got paid $30 a day working 10-12 hours with no days off and getting US taxes taken out. It was brutal and I promised myself each of those days I would never do it again. Though, I did see some rad places and met some amazing people from around the world, so I don't regret it at all. I was even able to come home with a little money even though I got paid slave labor. You ever see Speed 2? Kinda like that. Who am I kidding? No one has seen Speed 2. You have been visited by the doggo of dandy rides like this video and have a dandy day. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.